All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about some comments that Kamaru Usman recently made on his podcast that he does with Henry Cejudo. Now, this isn't the only time he has said this sort of thing, okay? This has been a theme for Kamaru Usman for the last 6 to 8 months or so, where he expresses that because in his mind he is the biggest name at welterweight, he can just sit out and wait for a title shot or a matchup he finds favorable that if he were to win could maybe propel him into a title shot. And this kind of thing drives me absolutely crazy, okay? Because Kamaru Usman is participating in what I like to call rank squatting. And in my opinion, this phenomenon is detrimental to the progression of not only the respected weight class, the UFC, but also the sport in general, okay? So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Also, before Usman fans jump to the comment section to spurg out, I have also criticized the likes of Colby Covington, Michael Chandler, Yair Rodriguez, up until very recently Brian Ortega, and plenty of others. Okay, so don't even bother with your whataboutisms, but either way, let us take a look at the first
Tricky,
clip.
bro. So where does that leave the Nigerian Nightmare? Where does that leave some of those other contenders? Ian Gary, Joaquin, Buckley. I mean, where does that leave everybody there? I mean, is the winner of Sean Brady, Leon Edwards, does Sean Brady get a title shot? Or the Nigerian Nightmare, the greatest welterweight of all time, when he fights one of the top contenders and he wins, does he get the next title shot? There's a lot of questions here because you've got to remember too, man. Leon was on a crazy winning streak too, man, and obviously, he has 2 wins over you. So I feel like 170 pounds is very puzzled. So I feel like Bilal Muhammad calling out DDP, like he hasn't fought any of those dudes. You know what I mean? He hasn't fought you. He's gonna fight JDM. He hasn't fought Rachmanov, Buckley. I mean, there's a lot of people there, dude. So
Okay, now I left this clip in for a few reasons that we can go over right now. The first reason I left this clip in is just to briefly poke fun at that absolute word salad that we just got from Henry Cejudo, okay? I understand he just came off of a very tough fight and all that, but holy shit, my guy, spit it out, please. Where does that leave? Where does that leave? Where does it? It sounds like a DJ is mixing him as he's trying to speak to us. On the podcast, it was kind of brutal. Okay, now, the next reason I left it in was for a bit of extra context, because this is, of course, the question that sparks the comments from Kamaru Usman. This is the most important point, in my opinion, is to show how gentle Henry Cejudo feels the need to be when asking a question like this, because basically he just asked, hey buddy, are you gonna fucking fight soon? Because welterweight is getting pretty deep. We got a lot of young up-and-comers who are active and could potentially be fighting for titles soon. So where does that leave you? Okay, but he had to ask it in such a way that he wouldn't offend Kamaru Usman, who we know is a sensitive Sally, and that's why he has not released the podcast with Bilal Muhammad yet. Lastly, okay, Kamaru Usman is not the welterweight GOAT, Henry Cejudo. That is very obviously George St. Pierre. Either way, let us continue and get to Kamaru's answer.
well, there, dude. So
Yeah, listen. If he wants to, if Bilal wants to go up to and fight DDP, then he vacates the title. Who cares? He hasn't gone through the division to say, "Hey, I want double straps." No one cares. But and this is no listen, and this is not me trying to hate or anything or say anything negative about him. I'm not saying anything negative. If he wants to do that, that's fine. He can do that. But there's a plethora of guys there. There's all these new guys coming up. You've got JDM, you've got Sean Brady, you've got Joaquin Buckley, you've got Ian Gary if he's able to get back up on the winning column again. So yeah, and then you've got, don't forget, Jeff Neal and is on that short list as well. You've got the Nightmare, Carlos Prates is on his way up. You've got Marias, who will be fighting Burns as well soon. So there's guys coming that you haven't really gone through the division. But for me to
Okay, now before we get to the second half of that answer, where Kamaru Usman just admits he is in fact a rank squatter, okay, I wanted to include this bit first because I do largely agree with what he has to say here. It drives me up the fucking wall when guys win a belt and are immediately trying to jump into the next division to get a second belt, especially when they have not defended a single time, okay? And this doesn't just apply to Bilal Muhammad, but it kind of, in a way, especially applies to Bilal Muhammad at this given time. Because, like Usman pointed out, like Henry Cejudo pointed out earlier, there are a lot of guys at welterweight right now. A lot of young up-and-comers who could potentially be on the cusp of a title shot. Joaquin Buckley, Ian Gary, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Carlos Prates, of course, Jack Della Maddalena, who he is fighting soon. But you haven't defended a single time. You've got a ton of contenders and you're already trying to jump up. That shit drives me fucking crazy, okay? Also, Kamaru Usman is right that I don't think Bilal Muhammad has the kind of star power where they would allow him to hold on to the welterweight title and go up to middleweight. At least that's just my opinion. But I will say, kind of fucking funny coming from Kamaru Usman, trying to pretend like he's not talking shit about him. Very clearly is talking shit about him, but will not release the podcast where we know he got fucking cooked, okay? Otherwise he would have released it. So I find it funny that Kamaru is more than willing to talk shit about Bilal Muhammad. By the way, I'm not even a Bilal Muhammad fan, okay? But it is funny that he will talk shit about him only when he's not there in the room. And the one time that Bilal Muhammad absolutely cooks Kamaru Usman, we never get to hear it because Kamaru Usman is sensitive. Okay, now let's move on to the last clip.
But for me, to answer your question, Henry, as where does that leave me? Henry, with every one of those guys that I just mentioned, I am still bigger name than every one of them. And this is not me not being any way. I'm still the bigger name than all of them. I'm still there at the top 3 of the division. I go in and I beat up somebody. I mean, there's, for the company's perspective, for my perspective, for a champion's perspective, whoever has the belt at that time, I think they know, we all know who the right pick is to fight for that title. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'll just wait for my shot when it's time for me to go in there and spin again. I'm gonna go in there and spin, you know? If you want to win, put Booby in, you know? And in this...
Okay, so Kamaru Usman kind of just says the quiet part out loud. He just explained that he is rank squatting, okay? Henry, I've got the biggest name in the division. My name's bigger than each and every one of them. So I'm gonna just sit and wait for my shot. And when it's time for me to slide, I'ma slide, okay? This drives me more crazy, I think, than guys that win a belt and are immediately trying to get a second shot at a welterweight class above, like we just talked about with Bilal Muhammad, okay? This is the reason why he is, quote unquote, the biggest name in the division. Now, I would question Kamaru Usman's star power, or at the very least his ability to sell pay-per-views, but he's not necessarily wrong. There aren't a whole lot of big names at welterweight, okay? But the reason for that is because of guys like him who refuse to fight people ranked below them, refuse to give the up-and-comers an opportunity to build their name, okay? Like the same kind of opportunity that Kamaru Usman once upon a time was given. So he's hoarding his ranking and his name value like he's a fucking dragon, okay? He points out he's number 3 in the world, and that is true. Now, this is a flaw of the ranking system, in my opinion, okay? Kamaru Usman has not won a fight since November of 2021. That's almost 4 years. We're going to be coming up on 4 years in November of 2025. He has not fought at welterweight in almost 2 years, okay? It's been well over a year since his last fight against Khamzat Chimaev. So, I don't understand this. In what world should you be ranked number 3 in the world right now, okay? It's fucking mental. And this is why and how divisions get clogged up at the top. This is why we had with lightweight the same few guys just recycled in and out of title shots because none of them were willing to fight guys ranked below them, up until Justin Gaethje fought Rafael Fiziev, up until Dustin Poirier fought Benoit Saint-Denis, up until now that Michael Chandler is going to be facing off against Paddy Pimblett They just continuously fought guys firmly established in that top 5, and it drives me absolutely fucking nuts, okay? Kamaru Usman needs to fight, or he should be removed from the rankings. And I'm not just advocating for this because it is Kamaru Usman. Like I said, Michael Chandler, guys like that, Brian Ortega, who eventually went on to fight guys ranked below them. But it's crazy to me that Kamaru Usman can be ranked number 3 in the world when he has not won in like 3.5 years in that weight class over Colby Covington, who is now ranked number 9. Okay, so Jesus Christ, Kamaru Usman, you need to fight, okay? And this applies to all rank squatters. They just shouldn't be in the rankings if they won't fight, okay? And that's it. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.